Hello and welcome to Niaga Spotlight with me, Tamina Kausji. Niaga Spotlight goes through the week in economic analysis and future affairs. Now, today actually on Future Affairs, we're taking a really timely look at economic outlook for 2025 when it comes to Malaysia, with a focus on tariffs and trade wars. So Malaysia's economic outlook for 2025 is projecting moderate growth. GDP is expected to grow and expand by 4.5 to 5.0%. Now, with the economy poised for recovery, however, it's driven by strong export performance, particularly in our electronics and palm oil sector. At the same time, though, ongoing global trade tensions and tariff disputes pose certain risks. Azmi Hassan, fellow with the National Council of Professors, joins me live in the studios for this extremely timely discussion. Azmi, a very happy New Year and thank you for taking time to join us. How are you doing today?
I'm happy to be here, Tamina.
Fantastic.
I'm good. I'm feeling very good. With 3 days of New Year, I guess, you mentioned tariff a number of times.
Yes, that's
so
right.
So it's going to be a very, very interesting next 4 years under the Trump administration.
Exactly. And of course, the inauguration will be happening a little later this month,
yes,
on January the 20th. So we felt that at Niaga Spotlight, it would be the best time perhaps to frame what the year ahead has to expect for us as Malaysia. So let's get started off. Azmi, I wanted to ask you, how might Malaysia and ASEAN adjust our trade strategies in response to these potential tariff increases that has been the absolute talk of every business circle, yes, since late November?
Yeah, for someone who hasn't heard about tariff, I think they are an expert right now, Tamina, because tariff,
exactly.
I think in 2016, James Carville, Democratic strategy, said it's all about economy, stupid. But right now, Tamina, it's all about geopolitics. Because,
fair enough, Azmi.
Yeah, because if you are
yes,
facing Trump, it's all about geopolitics. Even though he's a businessman, even before his inauguration coming 20th, he's already putting the Canada, I would say, the government really shaky. And few days back, he said he want the Panama Canal back from Panama. So I think it's all about geopolitics. Yes, in Trump's mind, it's all about economy. I think that's the reason why Datuk Sri Anwar appointed a few weeks ago Thaksin Shinawatra.
Yes, of course. Also very closely watched.
Yeah, a very special advisor to the chairman of ASEAN, because Thaksin and Mr. Trump, they are very, very close to each other. And I think they understood each other, because both of them, when they are making decisions, it's all about business. I think that's a very good strategy of the Prime Minister in getting Thaksin to be part of the circle for the ASEAN chairman, just to face Mr. Trump, President Trump, regarding his tariff threat towards ASEAN.
So that's a very interesting perspective that you bring up there, because so are we not so much looking at diversification of trade partners and more about maintaining it via a more strategic sort of approach?
Yeah, I think, we need to diversify. As Deputy Minister for MITI, YB, Chin Tong said that we need to diversify it. Yes, 10 to 20% of tariff to be imposed by President Trump is going to hurt our product, no doubt about that.
Most certainly.
But the problem is that the United States is one of the biggest market. So yes, we need to diversify it, but in the same time, do not hurt the United States, or do not try to pick a fight with President Trump. I think that's the most important thing. But the problem is Trump has already put out the threat that for BRICS nation, if they are too eager to change the greenback, to dish the greenback, the US dollar, then he will impose 100% tariff.
The de-dollarization also comes with its direct, kickbacks in a sense.
True. And Malaysia, I think, is part of BRICS. Need to turn about that, even though for ASEAN as a whole, it's only 10 to 25%. But again, 10 to 25% of tariff will hurt our product in terms of competitiveness.
Absolutely. So you've raised a couple of very interesting points, particularly looking at the appointment of Thaksin as Prime Minister Anwar's special advisor, coming for ASEAN chairship. I wanted to focus a little bit on the increased focus on regional integration when it comes to our ASEAN countries, and what could be the potential consequences should a global trade war actually occur, despite best efforts, and what that means for ASEAN and our economic integration?
Well, Tamina, this is not the first time that we are facing the trade war. It's been going on
absolutely, yeah.
during the first 45th president of Donald Trump. But again, this particular trade war is a little bit different because before this, US companies operating in China, they can move out. Because of this trade war, they want to move out. And they have two choices, either Vietnam or Malaysia, and sometimes Indonesia. So in that particular angle, we are taking advantage of the trade war.
That's true.
But the problem is with the trade war, the Chinese economy, China economy is going down. And that's where it really hurts us in terms of our exporting our products. But during this particular, after January 20th, it's all about MAGA. It's all about America, how to make America great again. For those US companies that are currently based in China, they want to move out. The only way of option they move out is to towards United States. Not to Malaysia. Yeah, I think it's going to hurt us very much because China economy will be hurt because when the demand is low from China, then it will impact us negatively. So the incoming trade war, I think, it's already begin, even before Trump.
Most certainly, because we saw the huge shift in supply chains globally due to the pandemic and what the consequences were. And that's actually shifted into possibly a more protectionist perspective, both for large sectors as well as for individual business owners, right? Yeah,
I think China is not very happy with this particular tariff because sometimes tariff being imposed on China, for example, on Mexico or on Canada,
that's right,
got nothing to do with economy. It's all about geopolitics. It's
indeed.
all about
market capture.
Yeah, I think Trump, he looks very, the Malay call it sembrono. You know the meaning of sembrono? Meaning he acting on impulse. But his strategy is very effective. Meaning that he said he want to put tariff 100%, give me something back before I impose that particular tariff. So this particular, for China, yes, they can go against other states. But for us, ASEAN, Malaysia, we are a small country. We just don't have the means to go against United States in this particular case. This is particularly, I would say, that is blackmailing.
And would you say perhaps, looking of course at individual ASEAN states, yes, clearly we do not have the numbers, but collectively speaking, we are a market of close to 750 million packs. However, there isn't that much of collective economic strategy behind ASEAN. Could this be an opportunity to finally, Azmi, for ASEAN to not show its teeth, but to be more strategic, economically speaking, as a bloc, the same way in which the EU is, perhaps?
Yeah, I think the way you said it, very similar to Datuk Seri Anwar said it. Because Datuk Seri Anwar want to make, as a chairman, he want to make ASEAN be the central of it, centrality ASEAN. Meaning that ASEAN will involve in a lot of things. But the most important thing Datuk Seri Anwar said during our chairmanship, ASEAN need to make a decision in terms of consensus.
Yes,
but as you said, not only in terms of US versus China, within ASEAN, there are a lot of division. This is in economy, but again, in regarding South China Sea, ASEAN on paper should have a one voice, but we just cannot achieve it. I think that's another reason why Thaksin and maybe Hun Sen from Cambodia and maybe George Yeo, former minister from Singapore, will be roped in by the chairman of ASEAN just to get the consensus of each of ASEAN nation when the chairman made the decision, when ASEAN made the decision. The problem with ASEAN, Tamina, right now is that they need a consensus. All the 10 nations have to agree.
Absolutely.
When it comes to China and other states, it is very, very difficult because some of ASEAN nations are more towards China, other nations are more towards United States, and maybe other nations they just don't care about it. So it's going to be very, very difficult to get consensus within ASEAN.
Absolutely. Integration is the wider question, and one can never tell whether the strategic positioning will work out in time. Let's move in from there and dig a little deeper, Azmi. I'd like to talk about whether, given our reliance on exports as a sovereign nation for Malaysia, how can we perhaps look towards diversifying trade partners to mitigate risks of a trade war and also shifting American tariff policies?
Yeah, by joining BRICS, I guess one of the reasons is to widen our market. But again, China being number one market, our trade partner, and United States being our the most FDI coming in from United States. Yes, we can diversify, Tamina, but again, look how President Trump thinks. BRICS, he sees that BRICS want to dish out de-dollarization. When you said just now, the problem is when we diversify, maybe the President of the United States, the incoming President of the United States will be thinking, oh, you want to get rid of us. Maybe I can impose something harsher towards this particular nation. So that's how Trump's work. You know, last few days when I said he want the Panama Canal back from Panama because he don't like China, Beijing is controlling the Panama as a nation and also controlling Panama as the canal. Because he just not satisfied, not happy that charges being imposed to their Navy, to U.S. Navy, using the Panama Canal is too high.
That's right.
So it's going to be very difficult.
So trade access, of course, is a huge part of the equation. Do you also see at the same time, because this is also something which happened in the immediate aftermath of the election that saw Trump as president-elect, the understanding amongst vast swaths of American voters that a huge hike in tariffs would also ultimately impact domestic industries, since, well, a lot of folks, a lot of sectors actually get a lot of their raw materials and various items along the supply chain from China.
Yes, true, Tavina. But again, why do the American voters pick Trump? Yeah, that's a good question when you say, of course, the product from China, for example, from Malaysia, ASEAN, will be much higher. So this particular higher prices will be burdened by the consumers. That's
Naturally,
very true.
yes.
But again,
a population that's also extremely used to, over the past 5-6 years, cheaper and more affordable, and a really vast range of goods, right?
Yeah, that's one part. That's what really, why didn't the American asking this particular question? They did not ask it. They are very happy, basically. Similarly, the immigration, Trump promised to, to get rid of the immigrant, the illegal immigrant. So if Trump succeeding in doing that, then the cost of product, of course, will be higher.
Yes,
because they are using a cheap labor right now. The services will be higher. So if you combine the tariff plus the cheap labor is no more available, of course, the product will be much higher. But this particular scenario only realized by people outside United States. In United States, Tamina, they are thinking the world is revolving around them. I think that's the way thinking. So if you listen to Kamala Harris answering about economy, how to make U.S. economy great again, and when I listen to Trump, I will vote for Trump.
A vast difference, of course. But,
Yes.
but of course, let's bring it back into looking at a couple of the trade agreements that we have, RCEP, and how it's looking like when it comes to shoring up ASEAN, both as a collective and for Malaysia within it.
Yeah, RCEP is the biggest trade agreement. I think if you combine the GDP of all the 15 nations, it's nearly one-third, more than one-third of the world GDP.
Correct.
So it is very, very important FTA for the 10 ASEAN, also the 5, I would say, the major economies plus China.
That's right.
But again, talking about FTA, I think Trump is not that. We are talking about Trump right now because his inauguration will be in the next few weeks. Trump is not, I would say, a fan of FTA. Like CPTPP, during his tenure, he pulled out the state from
correct.
CPTPP. And also NAFTA, he nearly pulled out, or what's his action against Mexico and Canada, he's not a big fan of FTA. I think this, we can show that using RCEP is a win-win situation. We can show to United States, do not close your economy, open up your economy. Do not be so protective. If you are trying to protect your product using tariff, it will work in a short while, but in the long term, it will not work.
It will lead to the isolationism, right?
Yes, correct. Very true enough. So I guess it's very, again, I would say that it's very difficult when talking about economy, because Trump will use economy in terms of geopolitics for the United States. So it's going to be very interesting coming 4 years. Not only Trump as the president, but his close advisor, as we know, Mr. Elon Musk. So it's going to be very, very interesting.
It also brings, and because you raised the question of Elon Musk, let's talk about the increased focus on regional innovation and technology transfer, but from an ASEAN perspective. We also, amongst our 10 countries, share a lot of accelerated movement, which could actually prove to be in our benefit in this medium term.
Yeah, talking about high technology, ASEAN alone, they will not be succeed. But currently, Tamina, discussion, what they call it, the China ASEAN Free Trade Area, they call it version 3.0. It mostly concentrating on digital economy, high technology.
Absolutely.
How China can help ASEAN in this case. We can see that during the BRI, the Belt Road Initiative. I think ECRL, for example, Tamina, I've been waiting this for so long.
That's right. And by 2026, 27 early, we should have the first full phases operational.
True.
It's going to reduce travel time, freight time, so much more.
Yeah, just imagine from KL to Kota Baru during
3 hours or less.
Well, that's during normal time.
That's right.
I mean, using a car, for example, during festive period, 15, 17 hours. So ECRL, without China, yes, it is very, very expensive, but without China, it is impossible. It is impossible to move the idea and to build it. So I guess in terms of high technology, I think the partner that China is offering us, it is the same technology from the Western nation, but way much cheaper.
That's right.
So RCEP, I think, is a good example, and also the ASEAN-China Free Trade Area version 3.0 is a good example of how China can help. It is a win-win situation in this particular scenario.
And it particularly feels like perhaps we will be looking at accelerated implementation of RCEP, because it will just be simply quite beneficial. And also when it comes to technology, BRI and ECRL, those are just examples, I think, of mitigating long-term impacts, whether or not an actual trade war does come out full force, but also just shoring up our ability to take care of the economy, right?
Yes, very true. But again, we need a strong partner. ASEAN needs a strong partner. So in this case, during meeting ASEAN++, United States will be part of our partner, and also China also will be part of our partner. So in this case, don't discard United States. Yes, we need to diversify it, but do not show that we are discarding United States. And
certainly not.
We cannot do that, because United States is a very important market over there, besides China in this case.
Absolutely. Let's move now closer into looking at Malaysia's FDI inflows, particularly for industries such as electronics, manufacturing and technology, which are really the bedrock of innovation growth, and a lot of the FDI that has come into the various technology parks in particular.
Yes, and this FDI, I think the great majority that high technology FDI comes from United States.
Correct.
I think that's the reason why, in terms of FDI, high technology, United States is #1, not China. So in this case, we still need United States in this case. But Tamina, Malaysia being the chairman, I'm not that worried, because Datuk Seri Anwar said his main focus is economy. They want all ASEAN, 10 ASEAN nations to be in one voice, and economy is our priority as the chairman, not about geopolitics. But I think we can handle this trade war between the United States and China, even though we are in the middle. ASEAN try at its best not to be sided in either one.
To be quite functional and operational rather than antagonistic, right?
And also neutral, looks neutral. Because
our traditional neutral stance comes
Yes, a
into
good
play
example
here.
is South China Sea, even though we have a problem with China, but China is our biggest trading partner. How do we do that? We don't antagonize China. We don't want to do that. We just cannot afford to do that. So in this case, by bringing that particular experience as the ASEAN chairman, I think we can do that. And to be honest, Temina, during the last Laos chairmanship, it was very quiet. Because
Certainly.
Laos doesn't want to take risks.
Yes, it's also the nature of Laotian economy and interests, etc.
Yeah.
So Malaysia, in that sense, is one of the larger, not just economies, investment-wise, but perhaps we will do things differently, but more strategically. Even.
Yes, I think it is very critical for any nation that hold the position of chairman. But I'm quite a little bit frustrated, Temina.
What frustrates you?
When you ask the layman about the chairmanship that Malaysia will, I think,
will take on, yes.
They have no idea, except a few banners and bunting that Malaysia will be the chairman. But Malaysia being a chairman in this particular geopolitical scenario, it is very critical.
In this year, 2025, which is smack in the middle of just 5 years away from 2030, which brings us to a lot of global and international benchmarks, such as the SDGs and such. Let's from there shift the conversation quickly into potential implications, Azmi, for President-elect Trump's policy changes for our SME sector, which are deeply dependent on global trade markets, not just to thrive, but also to access and develop.
Yeah, I'm really hoping that Mr. Trump, the president, should realize that, yes, we need FDI, high technology from the United States, beside China. And SME, I think that 70% of our GDP is contributed by SME, the small, medium enterprise. So in this particular case, a lot of our product, SME product, is exported not only to China, but also to United States.
Absolutely.
But again, imposing a, let's say, 20% tariff, it will hurt our SME. So I'm really hoping that what Mr. Trump said, 10 to 25% for the rest of other nations, besides China, Mexico, and Canada, will not be imposed. So there is a way to satisfy, as I say, not to, to make Mr. Trump looks very good. That there is a way, so that it will not hurt ASEAN nation. It will not hurt Malaysia in this case. And true enough, when you mentioned SME, we really depending on our SME. So a trade war, US and China, of course, our SME will hurt.
And also, I think with the increase and accelerated costs, it also brings up the potential of disrupting, for example, our own minimum wage increases and so many other factors that are playing into the ownership of these SMEs. Right?
Yeah, I think talking about SME, again, I'm trying to divert a little bit.
Sure.
I think that's the reason why it is very important that we, as a chairman of ASEAN, because as a chairman, we can maneuver. We can set the agenda. I mentioned Laos. Laos is very close to China. I think that's the reason they have been very quiet. But Malaysia, we have demonstrated that we are not we are not too heavy on China, and we are not distancing ourselves from the United States. I think being a chairman, I guess, not only for ASEAN, but also for our SMEs, it is very critical to demonstrate that ASEAN, Malaysia, want to trade with United States, even though we are trading with China. So there are ways, and I have a full confidence that Malaysia as the chairman, we can maneuver this particular geopolitics and economy issues that when they are banded together, is these very, very sensitive issues.
Exactly. Banded together is actually key to it. So to help close out and round off the discussion, Azmi, a little time on how might the ASEAN Economic Community, AEC, as we're broadly known, help buffer the region from any negative impacts of tariffs and protectionisms, and And some final thoughts on what additional measures could be taken to strengthen intra-ASEAN trade. It may not be something which occurs overnight, of course, but can Malaysia as chair help to really set the tone for hopefully, well, the next 50 years to come?
Yes, Tamina, when you mentioned the ASEAN community, AEC, I think there was a declaration when Malaysia was the chairman in 2015.
Previously, yes.
It should end 2025. And by 2025, Malaysia is the chairman again, 10 years after that. I think this community, ASEAN Economic Community, will be extended until 2045, something like that, if I'm not mistaken. But I think this economic community is part of another pillar. Economy is one pillar, another pillar which is my interest, which is security and geopolitical pillars, and also the social pillars. But economy is basically what ASEAN is all about now. When ASEAN was introduced, was established 60 years ago, 70 years ago, it was about security. It was about geopolitics. But right now, we transcend into economy. So economy is very, very important. Again, not that I said it because Malaysia is the chairman, but I have a full confidence. And the color of our chairman, already we can see when Thaksin is pulled on board, Hun Sen is pulled on board, and few other former ministers from other ASEAN nations full on board. I think we want to build a consensus within ASEAN. When we have a consensus, whatever decision that we make, economy, geopolitics, or social, I think will be much, much easier, Tamina.
And it appears to be a consensus built on expertise and also a lot of soft power, if we may.
Correct.
Because of course the chairpersonship remains with Malaysia, but taking into the consultative effort of major ASEAN economies, I think it augurs positively moving forward.
Yeah, I think it augurs very positive, even though Thaksin is a very sensitive political figure, not only in Thailand, but also internationally. But in certain ways, I think it will somehow or other, ASEAN will be in the good books of President Donald Trump.
All right.
Just because of Thaksin,
Perhaps it might. So thank you very much for the very insightful discussion so far, Azmi. It's been an absolute pleasure having you with us on Niaga Spotlight.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Well, that's all we have time for today on Niaga Spotlight, talking all things tariffs and trade wars when it comes to the economic outlook for Malaysia in 2025. A look into the crystal ball, but of course, time will tell. I'm Tamina Kausji signing off for Niaga Spotlight. Here's to a productive week ahead, and we'll see you again next Friday.